Hey, it's Daniel Jacob here with Everlasting Confidence, and I'm here with our model, Mabel, and we're going to be talking about how to take a guy from having limited options in his dating life to being the selector of the women that he wants the most. So we'll dive pretty deep into my story, but to start, Mabel, I want to say welcome.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate you having me today.
Of course. So Mabel, tell us a bit about, where are you from and what do you do for work?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm from Medellin, Colombia. I'm into the marketing field. So right now I'm working as a community manager for an international company, meaning the United States. I would also do a little bit of promoting on Instagram, and I'm also a journalist. So I like writing a little bit. So yes, I work for like bloggers, companies, and stuff like that.
Awesome.
Okay, Daniel, to get to know you a little bit more, I would like to know if you struggled with dating and confidence growing up.
Yeah, definitely. I struggled a lot with dating, confidence, just socializing with not just girls, but with people. I remember when I was 5, I had a huge crush on this girl in preschool. Her name was Caroline. She had blonde hair, blue eyes, and I had no idea of like how to actually approach and, start an interaction with her. But I just remember getting rejected and that kind of affecting my self-confidence moving forward, right? So moving forward, because I felt like she didn't like me for me, I needed to kind of be somebody else. And, as time passed, I was always trying to, fit in or act a certain way to be cool. And yeah, that was a pretty painful experience. Because also for me, it wasn't just about like girls, it was more of a social thing as well, where I couldn't really read different cues. So when someone, didn't want to talk to me, for some reason, like I just couldn't pick up on that. And I would still like try my hardest to, to talk to them, to get to know them. And yeah, like I had a pretty bad reputation, to be honest, growing up. Like I was that guy that was like annoying and was not very well liked. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that kind of throughout elementary school, middle school, even high school, that kind of like became a part of my identity. And it wasn't until about 18 years old that I had a pretty crazy experience where all of that changed. But yeah, growing up, I wasn't very confident. I did struggle a lot with girls, and it was something that was very difficult for me.
Okay, Daniel, so was there any specific experience that motivated you to start working on your dating life?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I told you, when I was in high school, I wasn't very confident. And when you're in high school, social status matters a lot, right? Your reputation matters a lot. So people know you as a certain type of person. So I had a really interesting experience where I got a job as a lacrosse counselor because I played a lot of sports when I was in high school. And I took this job, and what was interesting was that this is a completely new environment. So I grew up in a state called New Jersey in the US, and then this camp was in New York City, or in New York, right? And, I came there and I just decided, hey, look, like this is a completely new slate. I don't know anybody here, and I'm going to reinvent myself. I'm going to be somebody who's actually confident, somebody who's well-liked, somebody who has social status in this environment where I didn't have that when I was in high school, right? I was felt like I was boxed into a certain identity. So I just decided, hey, I'm going to be somebody totally different. So when I got there, I remember I was really trying my hardest to act really confident, really cool, talk a certain way, walk a certain way, look at people a certain way. And what was interesting is that it worked, right? It worked. I kind of like integrated myself into this environment and into being this person who is, well-liked by people. And very quickly, I was able to attract one of the most beautiful girls at that camp. So that was a breakthrough for me. And I'll get into the story a little bit. But the breakthrough was that your life and your reality, let's talk dating specifically, isn't hard and set in stone, right? You can create it. And nowadays, like, just because somebody wasn't successful with women growing up, it doesn't mean that that needs to be their trajectory moving forward. So that was that first kind of aha moment for me that, hey, it's possible to be able to attract beautiful women, even if you didn't even a couple of years ago or months ago. So yeah, I came there, I put on this persona of this really cool, confident guy, and I started dating this girl. We got along very well. We started to hang out together at night, go on dates, stuff like that. But it wasn't until later on that summer where my insecurities and my neediness and real, like my true colors of who I deeply thought I was deep down came out, right? My fears, all of the things that, I didn't like about myself when I was younger, they all shine through. And she picked up on it, right? So it was tough because at the end of the summer, we decided that we're going to continue dating. But then I honestly got pretty needy with her, right? I tried my hardest to kind of keep her and to continue the relationship. And I basically put all of my investment on her, and I stopped having my boundaries, my self-respect, the things that she liked about me initially. So little by little, like I could just see the attraction just completely get destroyed, right? It completely faded away. But what was really cool was that experience like showed me that, hey, I can get women that are very beautiful, that are high quality women. Like it kind of like opened my eyes to what's possible.
Okay, Daniel, so let me ask, what were some things that you tried to get better with women that were not effective?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as I told you, that experience really, really made a big impact on my mindset is, going from not having any results or any success with women at all to basically dating like the most beautiful girl that I've ever been with, right? And having her actually like me and invest in me. And yeah, sabotaging it at the end, but still, that was like a massive epiphany for me that, hey, like I can get the women that I want. So that was 18 years old for me, right? So as soon as that happened from there, I decided, hey, like I'm going to work on myself. I'm going to really like master this thing because I know that it's possible and I don't want to go back to who I used to be before in high school, right? And when I was younger. So the first thing I did was that I just went to the gym. I was like, one of the things that I know girls like is they like a guy that's, in shape, that's fit, that's lean, right? So I started working out and I started doing it very intensely. I would eat a certain amount of food. I would work out. I would train like 4 or 5 days a week. I would push myself. I would take all these supplements, but I was doing it from the wrong place, right? So I was doing it because I thought that I needed to work out and to look a certain way to get the women that I wanted. So that was good that I was pushing myself, but it wasn't good because I was very, very attached to how I looked. And actually that made me more insecure. So that was the first thing that I did. It was kind of the first like level in my journey of personal development. From there, what I decided to do was that I kind of went into this whole world of pickup artistry. And I don't know if you know much about that, but like guys online that teach you like what to say to women using different lines, different scripts, techniques. And I learned that you need to basically put women down for them to be attracted to you. So it was crazy, right? I would memorize all these different things, and I would like be in the bathroom with like note cards of like, okay, I need to say this to start the conversation. Then I got to say this. Then I got to say that. And my results were horrible. Like absolutely horrible. Like I would walk up to women, like inside I was super fucking nervous. I was like shaking from anxiety, but I would, use all these like scripts and lines to try to get women to be attracted to me and to reciprocate. But they would just either give me this look of like, who the hell are you? Like completely creeped out by what I was saying to them. Or they would just be like, no, I'm sorry. I'm with my friends. I'm not interested. Right. So there's a lot of ways women reject guys. But yeah, that was one of them. So I'm curious to hear from you. Have you ever had a guy walk up to you where you can just tell like he's just memorized a bunch of stuff and he's using like some lines on you?
Yes, that has happened a lot, especially with guys are a lot in their heads, or sometimes they can not be like social awkward, but that they get very shy and intimidated by being around women. So yes, I can realize that. And sometimes for me, just like let it flow, act normal, act natural, because like you said, you do things for women because you think that's what the women's going to like.
Sure.
But in my case, no, I just like a guy that's spontaneous, doesn't have tried too hard, because that's when you realize the guy is doing something that is not making him to be him.
Yeah, so when a guy approaches you and you could just tell he's like super in his head, he's memorized all the stuff, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel, oh, well, this is interesting. It makes me feel like maybe he's doing that with every girl that he meets. Because if he's trying these things, so maybe he will try to do it in every woman to see if it works in a list in one. Because like I say, every woman is different. So for me, that's the perception I get. So I get a little bit turned off by that.
Okay, so it's unattractive for you.
Yes, absolutely. It is.
Yep, okay. Yeah, so that's what I was doing. And I remember I actually had this one experience. I was in Cancun, Mexico with my brother. This was probably like 7 years ago. And I saw a girl dancing. Like they had one of those shows, a performance. And I was watching this girl dance. Like they called her up on stage. And I saw her later at the bar in that resort. And I basically walked up to her and I told her, "You are the worst dancer in the world." Something like that, right? I was basically trying to like bash her and put her down. And then from there, she just got really angry, right? She got really upset with me because one of the pickup books I was reading was telling me like that you need to neg women, which essentially means like you got to make them feel bad about themselves.
Exactly.
And I remember her friend like coming in the conversation and telling me like, "You are the most inauthentic person I've ever met and no girl will ever like you." And then I saw that girl go home or like, you know, go home with like some other guy and just feeling like, what the hell did I just tell her? Like I completely messed that up. So yeah, like that was kind of the things that I've tried. And I was very hard-headed, right? It wasn't like I tried this once and it didn't work and I gave up. Like I would do this like for years and years and years. Like I was going out like 4, 5, 6 nights a week, like trying to figure out, hey, maybe like I need to use a different line or I need to use a different tactic. And yeah, I was just really, really like motivated to figure this out.
So a lot of guys give up on improving their dating life. What motivated you to keep going?
Yeah, for me, I just couldn't accept the reality of either A, being alone and not having anybody in my life, or B, settling, right? Like there's certain things that I was just like unwilling to compromise on. And one of those was like the inability to have connections with the women that I wanted and relationships with the women that I wanted. You know, I told you growing up, this was a huge struggle for me, right? I lacked confidence. I lacked the ability to like have the type of dating connections that I really desired. And that was super painful. Like it was incredibly painful growing up and watching guys that were having lots of success and feeling extremely angry and, you know, resentful even and jealous about that. And just knowing that, hey, like, I'm going to figure this out. I don't care what it takes. And I think on top of that, part of it is like, you know, my nature and my character is that I'm somebody who, if I set my mind to something, I just don't accept giving up. Like there's so many people out there that will just give up, throw the towel in because it's like too hard, you know, whether that's in their career or maybe in their fitness journey or in working on their dating life and their confidence. For me, it was just not an option. You know, I was like, I'm going to die trying if I have to, but I'm going to get this solved, right? I knew in my mind, like I could just see this vision of myself, you know, being in bed with like the type of women that I wanted and having incredible sex with them, you know, going out with them, traveling with them, having vacations with them. And I was like, no, like I'm not going to settle for anything less than this. And I'm going to do whatever it takes. So was it hard? Yeah, it was very hard, right? Mm-hmm. I got rejected and put through shit more than anybody that I know. But that's the way I see it, right? In life, if you want to get to the other side where you are having the experiences, you are having the fulfillment and the joy that you really want and the excitement, sometimes you need to go through a lot, right? Like there is guys out there, and I believe I spoke about this in a previous podcast, that only about 5% of men naturally are really good with women. They naturally have this confidence and the self-esteem that allows them from a young age to get whatever girls they wanted. And that wasn't the case for me, right? I was a part of that 95 that wasn't naturally confident. And that was not okay with me, right? I was like, that's just not going to happen, that I'm going to figure this shit out, whatever it takes, right? Have you ever had anything like that in your life, that you had a goal and you were just unwilling to give up on it? Maybe it was something to do with a relationship, with dating, or maybe something else.
I believe for me, it's not like in dating life, because I never had that, like, you know, like that issue that much, or on like trying to keep up on a specific matter or in a relationship. I think it's mostly about more into my career or into a professional path. For me, it's always the idea, for example, to get a very good job, for example, in the United States, or study there. It's actually very expensive. It's not as easy, but I always did it. I never gave up on that dream, or I always tried. For me, until now, it's still not an option to try and keep going for it.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Exactly. I actually want to add to what I said. So for me, part of it was about having the dating life and the experiences with the quality of women that I wanted. But actually an even bigger part for me was the feeling of being confident, right? I feel like it was only actually over the last like maybe 4 or 5 years that I got to a point that I could like look you in the eyes and feel confident talking to you and not be in my head and not be fidgeting and fucking nervous as shit and like looking everywhere. Where before I did have those issues, right? And I told myself, like, I'm going to work on this because I hated that feeling of being stifled. I don't know if you can kind of relate, but as a guy, guys want to feel free. Guys want to feel confident. And one of the most painful things is this feeling of like being completely stifled and paralyzed by your own mind. Yeah. And that's was really hard for me to deal with and accept. I was like, I'm not going to accept this shit.
Yeah, but it's interesting that you mentioned, for example, the eye contact, because that's a total different game changing for me. Because then the guy now makes me nervous. It makes me feel a little bit like, whoa, like he's looking at me. Because sometimes people cannot really look into your eyes without talking and looking around. Right. But that's part, the eye contact for me just totally, it gets me.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's intimidating, or some guys have very deep. It depends how you're looking. Sometimes it can be a little bit awkward, but it's good.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I believe that a guy goes through 3 stages in his dating journey. And I remember I went through these stages. The first is reactive. So when a guy's reactive, he can't look you in the eyes. He's kind of doing this, he's doing this, he's looking away, right? He's not able to look you in the eyes. The next one is unreactive, right? Unreactive means that he's kind of able to look you in the eyes, but he's like doing his best to like keep calm, and he's able to keep calm, but like barely, right? He's not able to do anything more. He's kind of like grounded, but not to the point where he's making you nervous. And then the third level is proactive, which is where I'm able to kind of like look you in the eyes and I'm totally calm, I'm enjoying it, and I'm able to send like different energy your way. And that's like where you start to get nervous. And I've noticed that with girls, is you get to a point where you're holding eye contact so well that they start to do all the things that I used to do. They start to fidget. They start to kind of look away a little bit. Yeah. They start to get a little bit nervous, like you kind of looked away there a little bit. Yeah. So that's third. Yeah. So that's that third level of being proactive. And that's where I wanted to get to. I wanted to get to a point where I felt so confident that, you know, I was able to feel great around any girl, that I wasn't having my mind basically sabotage me.
Okay, Daniel. So was there any specific experience that caused you to question everything that you have been doing with women to get better?
Absolutely, yeah. So as I told you, up until that point, I was doing a lot of pickups. So I was learning different tactics, techniques, going out 4 or 5 nights a week, just trying different things that weren't working, right? They weren't really authentic to who I was. And it was frustrating, right? Because of the amount of time and energy that I was putting into it. So I decided to get a mentor, right? I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to hire somebody who really knows what they're doing, is really good with this. And This mentor cost a lot of money, right? He was a private mentor, and his whole system was basically working with a real live model, right? Having a woman there who you approach, and the woman tells you what you did right, what you did wrong, what you're doing, both in terms of your behavior, in your energy, and your conversation skills, that is causing you to get rejected. Because you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what your blind spots are. It's like a car that's driving. The car could see on the left side, on the right side, it could see ahead, but it doesn't know what's actually happening in those kind of blind spots behind it. So that's what was going on with me. And I remember doing that approach for the first time with the model, and then the model basically telling me, you are the most needy guy I've ever met, right? That you are trying so damn hard to impress me. And up until then, I thought I was being authentic, right? I thought I was being confident. I thought I was being smooth, but I wasn't, right? And she called me out, and I remember feeling this immense amount of sadness, right? Imagine it's like you spend 4 or 5 years building something brick by brick by brick, memorizing it, whether that's like for your career or for something else, and then realizing it's all fake, realizing it's all a hoax. So that's what happened here. And I was distraught, right? For a couple of weeks, I was like, does this even, what's the point, right, of doing all this? Should I just give up on my dating life? But at the same time, that was the most important experience that I've ever had, because it helped me realize how inauthentic I was being, and that I needed to take a different approach, right? Whatever I was doing in terms of trying to do it a very technical way, where I was faking confidence, where I was memorizing things, putting women down, this wasn't sustainable, right? It wasn't helping me become better, because I felt terrible about myself, but it also wasn't getting me any results. And I realized that I needed something that was deeper, that was more honest, because the biggest problem I realized I was having wasn't with what I was saying. It was how I felt about myself. I realized I had some really, really big confidence issues and self-esteem issues that I needed to work on. And that's what changed everything for me, right? I realized that to get better with women, my path wasn't more techniques. It was meditation. It was introspection. It was understanding where my insecurities came from and resolving those, right? Healing some traumas, and then, taking a more authentic approach towards actually connecting with women, being more honest, being more open, more vulnerable with them. And that's when everything changed for me.
So what do you focus on after, and how did it affect your results?
Yeah, so as I told you, after going through this crazy experience of getting told that I'm super needy, super insecure, not myself, it really shook me up, right? And I decided to just take a really more genuine approach, where I started to get in touch with how I truly felt deep down and express that to women. And this is really the opposite of everything that everybody was teaching that I learned from, right? Everybody was teaching, act cool, say the right thing, always, look like you have your shit together, versus what I started doing, which was just being fucking honest about how I felt. So if I felt sad, telling a girl that I felt sad. If I felt nervous, telling a girl that I felt nervous. If I felt like I wanted her and I was attracted to her sexually, just telling her that and being very direct and very sincere about it. So I remember this one experience. This is kind of what clicked in terms of this new approach. I was at a music festival in New York City, and I saw this girl that was literally my perfect girl, dancing with her friends. And I felt extremely nervous, right? And in the past, what I would do is I would try to walk over and be smooth and use some pickup lines on her. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to be honest. So I walked over and I told her, hey, I'm super nervous to tell you this, but I'm really attracted to you. What's your name? And I could see her eyes just completely light up and be like, oh, this is my name. Who are you? Right? And within 30 seconds, we were dancing and connecting and kissing, and it was incredible, right? Because I was like, wow, this vulnerability stuff really works, being open. Because it also showed me that by me opening up about how I felt, it would remove the wall that was between me and the girl. She would feel more comfortable being herself around me. Mm-hmm. And also my insecurities would like dissolve. Like they would kind of go away when I would just open up about them. And I would realize that, hey, like I'm a human being. Like I have emotions just like she has emotions. And we're very similar in a lot of ways. So yeah, that completely changed everything for me, right? From there, I started to be more honest and more like upfront with every girl that I would see and date. This removed my need to plan stuff. I wasn't in my head so much. I was a lot more in my body. My energy changed. And it didn't happen right away, but little by little by little, women started to be attracted to me and respond to me differently. And yeah, my results completely changed over the years. I think it took more than just that. So that was kind of the first pillar, is like learning to be honest. Then the next phase that I really went through was doing a lot of like deep, like internal work, like working through different subconscious blocks that I had, or different deep fears or like childhood traumas that I had. And once I did that, like everything changed. Like who I just am and how I carried myself, like was night and day to when I started.
Yeah, that's the thing, because sometimes men think that being vulnerable it doesn't look good in front of a woman, and actually it does, because men are a little bit scared to say, "Oh, she's gonna see my feelings and stuff." So actually, they start closing more and they don't show themselves.
So when a guy is vulnerable with you, like how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel like he cares about me, that I'm special, because he's opening up. So that really works for me, because it's also like he's seeing me as a friend, not as a lover or someone he's dating, but also as a friend that come to me and tell me what's going on. So for me, I really like when a man accepts that also he's a human being, and that's part of being human being. So for me, being vulnerable is like what I really appreciate about a man, because sometimes guys, they're dating, but they don't make themselves being emotionally available.
Yeah.
So that's a different game there. So yes, I like it when
absolutely. Yeah, it's so powerful when you're vulnerable with someone, and you're able to have that connection, and it deepens everything, right? It makes everything better.
Yeah, I'm attracted more to the guy when he's vulnerable.
Yeah, absolutely.
So at what point do you start helping men to improve their confidence with women?
Yeah, so there was a certain point where I realized how powerful this approach of being vulnerable is, right? That it's a complete game changer. And I realized that nobody in the dating industry is teaching this, right? Everybody is teaching very superficial stuff, teaching guys routines and lines and things to help them act confident, but not actually become confident as a man. And I realized like there's a massive gap in this industry, and that I just felt called to solve it because of the amount of pain and struggles and challenges that I personally went through. So I, at the time, was working in the tech field. I was working for a really big company doing business-to-business sales. I was making really good money. This was out of college, right? I was paid to kind of travel around the US, going to Chicago, LA, Connecticut, New York, right? Just going to these different business meetings with people, selling like technology services. But I just wasn't happy, right? I was so unfulfilled. I was spending all of my time outside of business, outside of work, approaching girls at airports, at grocery stores, at nightclubs, at bars, just seducing them, connecting with them, attracting them, and having lots of fun. And that's what my mind was focused on. On top of that, I was also spending a lot of time reading, right? I loved psychology. I loved just everything to do with like human behavior. So that's where my heart was. And after 2 months of working that job, I decided to quit and start Everlasting Confidence, right? To start really helping guys take a more deeper, more holistic approach towards actually attracting the women they want. And it was really tough at first because like I didn't have any like entrepreneurial experience. I took a few marketing classes in college, but for the most part, I didn't really know what I was doing. But because I was able to convey my own experiences and my own kind of knowledge in this field so well, I started just posting in different Facebook groups. I had people reach out to me and be like, hey man, like I resonate with you. I've been through something like this as well. And I picked up a couple one-on-one clients. Then I started coaching them, got them insane results, right? Got guys to get completely out of their head, unlearn a lot of their old patterns and start actually going on dates and connecting with women, get over their fear of approaching. And then from there, I invested in some really, really expensive high-level business coaches who taught me how to like properly, build a whole company out of this, right? And how to help people in this area. So that was my journey, right? As I started helping just guys with dating and helping them kind of do it in a more honest, authentic way that focused more on helping them build self-esteem first, not teaching them a bunch of pickup lines. Yeah, so that was it. Now, the thing to note is that my approach changed a lot, right, over the years. When I started, I was just kind of coaching and just teaching, at first online and then, moving to Miami and helping guys more kind of face-to-face, working with them. Eventually, though, I realized that, hey, I want to really take this to the next level. And the best way to help a guy get good with women fast and develop the confidence, develop the right skills is through real experience. Because I was coaching guys, I was telling them what to do, but it almost felt like I was kind of talking at them, not working completely with them. I wasn't like in the weeds, actually like uncovering things with them, working with them, helping them overcome those barriers in the moment that they had. So then I created this concept or the system, right? Kind of using some of what I learned from my early mentor called Golden Interaction Training. And I know that you're one of her models that works with us. And essentially Golden Interaction Training is a system where guys work with real women, right? And not just any women, but actual like beautiful models that are intelligent, that are emotionally kind of very aware, that are very kind girls, and the type of girls that they would want to date, like truly high quality women. And working with these women, both over video and in person, getting repetitions, right? Getting practice, approaching them, talking with them, interacting with them, building tension with them, flirting with them, and getting feedback, most importantly. Because that's what I lacked when I was younger. And I know I mentioned this earlier during the podcast, is that like, I didn't know what my blind spots were. I didn't know what the hell I was doing wrong to turn so many girls off. And I think so many guys struggle with that too. They just don't know what they don't know. And Golden Interaction Training is the fastest way. It's like the shortcut to understanding what mistakes you're making with women, how you're sabotaging yourself. And the coolest thing is that it's real experience, right? These guys are jumping on the calls. They're super nervous. They're feeling all this anxiety. You can clearly see it in their face, in their voice, in their body language. And they're actually putting themselves through those challenges, right? Through those conversations. And they're getting that feedback at the end, which allows them to grow super, super fast. So I know that you've been a model with us for probably over a year now. How has that been for you? What's been your experience?
My experience for me, I will say mostly is like seeing the progress of these guys, because definitely they have improved a lot. It helps me to understand what is going through a man's mind, because sometimes you wouldn't think that, like in the calls, we understand like actually men spend a lot of time in their heads, and that's one of the things that shut them down when being in front of women. So for me, that has been very interesting, try to understand them. And the more I do it, is for me to help them to see like, hey, you're a human being. It's completely normal to come to a girl and say, you can be vulnerable, you can be yourself, and tell me, I'm nervous. So I think for me, it's been very interesting to see that the progress when you understand them and try to make them feel like it's okay to feel a certain way is when they start growing more confidence. And that's what I see in these guys. So I think it's an amazing experience to do that. Yeah.
I love that you say that. And there's one other thing I want to mention is that a lot of guys, especially with very beautiful women, they put them on a pedestal. Right? They think that beautiful women are like aliens, that they're not even humans. But the point of this Golden Interaction Training is that, yes, it gives you repetitions. Yes, you get the feedback and you get the specific coaching on, what you're doing wrong. But the biggest thing also is that you get to actually see women as humans, right? You get to kind of level with them. You get to see their vulnerabilities. You get to understand, hey, women, they get me, right? I'm able to be myself. I'm able to show my flaws and my weaknesses and my insecurities, and I'm not going to get shut down for that. So when guys have that experience on our sessions, right, whether that's in video or in person, they're from there able to actually translate that into their real live approaches. And that's when everything changes, right? I see guys literally within like weeks of doing this, overcoming their fear of approaching, right? They're starting to go on dates with girls, have relationships with girls, and you know, a couple months down the line, I see guys like in relationships with like stunning women, like women that they in the past would have no chance with, or that they would think that would be completely out of their league. So that's really cool to see. Question for you, Mabel, what is the difference that you see in guys that you work with? Like, for example, Ash, when he first started versus where they're at now?
I think it's probably like you said that you mentioned before, it's like doing an introspection in yourself and trying to understand what's going in your mind, in your body. I believe that it's being aware to understand what is going on yourself. So for example, this guy, Ash, at the beginning, he didn't understand what was going on with him, like the breathing or what I'm feeling certain way in front of this beautiful woman. So I believe it's when they learned that there is a process, there is a connection into your body. So for me, I will say that's what I notice the most. It's trying to understand yourself, breathing yourself, spending more time like meditation, and being conscious about what is going in your head. And realizing like women, we also get nervous, you know, but sometimes we hide it more, or we just like, we don't spend that much time in our head. So for me, it's that like understanding your inside.
So let me ask you this, right? So you're saying that a lot of what we do obviously is very inner focused.
Yeah.
When Ash went through those inner changes, how did that affect his behavior? What do you notice differently in him?
I noticed that he started like improving and say, oh, maybe this is my chest, like I cannot breathe, like this is my pain, this is what is going on. So I think when he started realizing that, then he will start breathing or being more aware, and then his behavior started changing into becoming more confident. That's the big change. Otherwise, you just don't understand what's going on in your body because you think maybe it's my head, I'm shaking or something. But you know, when something is about breathing or thinking, yes, they become a little bit more confident.
Yeah, because your inner and your outer is so connected, right? Like most guys don't understand that, but their body is the key to unlocking their confidence with women. It's not your head, it's your body. I remember like when I was telling you doing all that pickup stuff, I was walking around the bar telling myself, I'm confident, I'm confident, I'm confident. It didn't work. It didn't work because I didn't feel confident in my body. I felt pain, sadness, insecurity in my body, but in my head I was trying to convince myself that I was someone who I wasn't, or that I was feeling differently than I was. And it was only when I actually went through the emotions, right? The actual feelings that were blocked in my stomach, in my chest, in my legs. That's when everything shifted. And that's when women started to respond differently to me.
Exactly. How many men have you worked with over the last 5 years?
So we have worked with over 250 men at this point. We've worked with guys all over the US, in Europe, in Asia, even in Australia. We've had some clients, a couple in South America too. So we've really, really expanded. Now, who we work with at first, I was kind of just helping guys in general, guys that just needed help with dating, that wanted to really solve their kind of deeper self-esteem issues that were affecting them with women. But now we really focus on guys that are already successful in their careers, right? Guys that are doing 6-7 figures, whether they're business owners, whether they work in tech, in real estate, in finance, or maybe doctors, lawyers, any other field like that. Because we find that guys that want to get the highest quality of women, they typically need a good foundation, right? They need a stable foundation of finances, of some stability career-wise. They need to be already working on themselves. They need to be like solid guys, but they're just missing that one piece, right? They're missing that ability to actually walk up to beautiful women in any situation, know exactly how to attract them, know exactly how to connect with them so that these women want to see them again. So we work with guys that basically have it all, but the success in their dating and in their love life. So if you enjoyed this podcast with Mabel, where I spoke about my story and how I went from having zero confidence with women to mastering this area of my life, and you want to actually get feedback on your blind spots with women and work with our models like Mabel, then what I invite you to do is click the link below and check out our 7-minute movie where we talk about the new way to meet, attract, and date the highest quality of women. So thank you, and we'll see you in the next podcast.